All right, let's talk about the tactical class on patch 8.0 or the patch 8.0 test server because we did just finish up a run on wave 18 with tactical true solo for hard mode siege mode, and I have some thoughts on the builds here. So first of all, I think the stalker bolt rifle is very good versus Tyranids. I've chosen to take both the loadout for stalker bolt rifle and the loadout for bolt carbine effectively for Tyranids here and Chaos here, mainly because Bolt Carbine gives us much more consistent contested health regen than the Plasma will. Plasma is very good, it's just like if we don't have the contested health regen, you'll just die more often. And when you're by yourself, this is mainly for solo, you will just eat shit at times with the Plasma Incinerator, and that's kind of unfortunate. But as far as our perk choices go, before we get more into the weapons, we are taking Plasma Boost, mainly because the Plasma Incinerator or Plasma Pistol, this benefits from this, and we don't really benefit too much of the Bolt Carbine with balanced distribution. Your primary weapon deals 10% more damage, but your secondary weapon deals 10% less damage, because in the case of the Plasma Pistol is pretty damn good at fighting bosses, and we don't want to lose 10% damage on our secondary here, because when we do pull out the Plasma Pistol, it's usually pretty important. Now, in the run I was doing, I took the ammo capacity version of this gun. I would probably swap over to rate of fire in the future to see how that works, because usually charge up time is really important. But, you know, sometimes you do run out of ammo, so you can really choose between these two. I don't think the venting speed version is really worth anything for this build, but between these two, you can definitely make a decision here. If you're playing with other people, I'd probably take this. If you're playing by yourself, this might be more beneficial, but this can definitely get your contested health back more often and lets you get some shots on triple bosses you otherwise couldn't. Now, as far as cracking penetrator rounds go, this doesn't really benefit our overall build if we're fighting both Chaos and Tyranids, because currently in the PTS server for Siege mode, you can't really fight both. You can't change like your perk loadouts for your loadouts here, which is the same in the live game, but this really should be changed. That's the biggest issue in the Siege mode currently. And really, if we can't do that, I just take something that benefits both builds. So this will help us with number 1 and 3 here. And if you ever want to swap over to Plasma Incinerator, you know, just for like a quick perk check, we should take the rate of fire variant, and so we should take for the Plasma. But as far as the other perks are concerned, Heightened Vigor. After approaching time to parry, block, or dodge, you deal 10% more melee and gunstrike damage, you lose control upon taking heavy hits, and cannot be knocked back for 10 seconds. This is pretty much mandatory on this class. No knockback in this game is so important, and this is one of the best no knockback perks in the game. It also gives us more melee and gunstrike damage, and we are using fencing because currently the Auspex parry is bugged for fencing, and really, I've changed my opinion on this for Chaos. Chaos in particular does benefit from fencing on a chain sword with the battle focus perk, mainly because the Terminators and some of the Rubric Marines, they will come after us often, and we do get all of our magazine back on the Bolt Carbine with Gunstrike Reload, so this definitely helps with that. Lets us get more consistent health regen, and this helps us reload our gun significantly faster, so we don't have to take something like Emperor's Judgment. Now, Emperor's Vengeance, killing a Majoris level or higher enemy restores your primary weapons ammo by 1 magazine, cannot exceed maximum ammo capacity, cooldowns 30 seconds. This is just the best perk for playing Siege mode. It just saves you a tremendous amount of ammo, and I really don't see anyone ever not taking this. They did buff what was previously Final Shot. It is now Emperor's Judgment, which your primary weapon will deal 20% more damage for 10 seconds after you do a finisher, and it will reload your primary weapon. This is pretty good with the Bolt Carbine. It's just, unfortunately, Emperor's Vengeance is still goated. And the new team perk here, Secure Stockpile, equipment charge restored by 1 for all squad members, cooldown at 60 seconds. This is the best of all of these team perks. 60-second melta bombs, not just for yourself, but your entire team, is OP. It is absolutely ridiculous. This class was lacking equipment recharge for so long, and this pretty much fills out like the only gap he ever really had. So I pretty much always take this. Ranged damage is good with aligned aim, and this might be mathematically better, but this one just does more for you in oh shit moments, and that's really what you need in Siege mode. Now, I have swapped over. I was previously taking priority targeting here. I swapped over to Vital Data, scanning Extremis or Terminus level enemy, restores Auspex scans charged by 50%. There are so many Extremis in this game, and when you are fighting triple boss spawns, which are the things that filter you in this game, like those are absolutely the hardest waves, Vital Data will save you. Having a 50% less, 50% reduction in your recharge of your Auspex scan, that is super valuable. I think this is just great perk in here overall. And a battle focus, perfect time parry or block gives you the parried enemy a mark from Auspex scan. Again, this is just one of the best perks in the entire game. Maybe not the best perk anymore now that it only operates with fencing. It doesn't function on block due to a bug in the PTS. But if it changes again, it'll still be one of the best perks in the whole game. And here we take Concentrated Fire. Auspex Scan Zone lasts 60% longer, and enemies marked by Auspex Scan take an additional 120% damage, but they lose the mark when they leave the scanned area. This is super, super good with Vital Data, because as long as you have this zone active and an Extremis enters the zone, the Vital Data will trigger. So like, even if you put this down and you don't have an Extremis in your zone initially, if they come in, it will still give you the 50% refund, and that's really, really, really good, and that helps us a lot, especially with bosses. And Concentrated Fire is the biggest chunk of damage for no real downside outside of like not having them move aside, or I should say, excuse me, the enemies don't get marked, and like as long as they're in the zone, you know, that's the main downside of Concentrated Fire, is that it's Concentrated Fire. But overall, this is just way more beneficial than these other three, and I would just always take this. And as far as signature perks go, Signal Jammer and Marked for Death are not remotely as good as Radiant Impact, because there are just so many enemies in Siege mode that having the 10-meter radius explosion that will one-shot Majoris, and even at times it will blow up Extremis and every Spore Mine around you, it's just too damn good. Just take this thing all the time. This just scales upward in difficulty so much that there's no real point in not taking it. Now, as far as our Prestige perks go, Acuity, each consecutive headshot increases headshot damage by 3% up to 15%. The bonus lasts 5 seconds without a headshot. We just take this because it benefits both the Stalker Bolt Rifle and the Bolt Carbine, and it's really, really good for your damage. Now, I used to take Skilled Supplier. Ammo reserve increases by 15%. But we don't hurt for ammo on our primary too much. This can benefit your plasma pistol, but I've swapped over to taking Spare Power. Collecting an ammo box restores ability charge by 25%. Now, I take this in solo, mainly because I'm buying ammo boxes because they're just more valuable in solo play than like the ammo crates are. But if you are playing with other people, Skilled Supplier might be more valuable than this. But the extra Auspex charge is actually really, really useful. And the next perk we take here is Resilience. Medicae Stims restore 40% more health. This just makes our Medicae Stims more valuable, and sometimes, you know, really value in this game is all you want in a point-based system like you have in Siege mode, where you can only buy so much stuff before you're out, and this lets you save money for your Dreadnought and other things, so I would just always take this. And then the one that I think is like the best perk in this whole tree is Fortitude. Health increases by 15%. Health is super valuable in this game because the lower your HP gets, the more damage reduction you get, which means that your health increases are that much more valuable. So pretty much always take this. Fortitude is great. I would just take either these four or these four. And Second Look, not really valuable with Concentrated Fire. It does nothing for us with that perk. And Exigency Charge, this is just a trash perk. Now, as far as our weapon perks go, for Bolt Carbine, this is how we're set up. We just go down for Headhunter into Rapid Health because, you know, you don't really use this too much, but sometimes it can save your life. And then Hone Precision, equipped weapons maximum spread decreases by 50% when firing without aiming. This just means that your hip fire is actually better than aiming down your sights, so pretty much always hip fire with the Bolt Carbine. It's genuinely more accurate, and you're basically like a little laser beam. And then we also take here a Divine Might, damage increases by 10%, you know, damage, and then we take magazines, increased capacity, and adamant and magazine restoration here, which is pretty much the same as adamant restoration on the heavy weapon perks, which just means that like when our HP drops, we get more ammo back, and your HP will drop in this mode, so always take this too. And then we go up to Gunstrike Reload, because this is pretty much mandatory for keeping your ammo, or at least, excuse me, your magazine at full. And as far as our Chainsword perks go, we know we're taking a Fencing Chainsword because, again, Battle Focus is bugged with block, but I think this is actually better for Chaos, as I said previously. And then here we have Perpetual Strength, Swift Recovery, Perpetual Strength, more melee damage, you know, more melee damage, blah, 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 blah. You get the idea here. And then we take the Full Throttle for the Full Throttle Chainsword skip, which I do have a video on. And then as far as our Stalker Bolt Rifle goes, we do take this perk line here. We go all the way down to Recruitment, mainly because killing a Majoris level or higher enemy with a headshot with this weapon restoring 1 armor for us is super, super valuable, because the main downside of Tactical is that this guy doesn't really have like a ton of damage reduction. He doesn't have a ton of ways to get himself back armor. And really, armor will save your life against things like Triple Lictors or like Quadra Lictors, or, you know, maybe not Quadra Lictors, but like, you know, Double Raveners. Really, whenever anything is on you in the this game and you don't have armor versus Tyranids, you feel pretty bad as tactical, and this will let you get yourself some armor back, and that's just super important for this mode. But I mean, like, some people might not agree with that, but really, once you start fighting more and more lictors and more melee enemies in this game, 1 armor reduces all damage from a melee attack against you, and that's the difference between taking 70% of your HP and taking 0, so that is super valuable. And as far as the plasma pistol goes, again, we go for ammo, because ammo efficiency is pretty important, and not taking efficient charge, that's a pretty huge downside. Anyways, that is all for this video. If you like content like this, subscribe for more. I also want to say thank you to all my channel members, and if you like more guides like this, let me know. Take it easy.